Right, good afternoon everyone. My name is David Taylor. I run the LinkedIn training course here at Business Training Made Simple. I've got 21 years experience in PR, social media, communications, and I'm also the author of a social media book called The Business of Being Social. So today we're going to look at a little bit of the science behind LinkedIn and lead generation. What are we going to cover today? We're going to look at a quick introduction to LinkedIn, a little bit of background on it. There's still a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding about what it is as a site. Hate to say it, but there's still people who think it's just a way for someone to get a new job. It's really like saying that Facebook is just a social network for mates to talk to each other. It's clearly not. How you get to All-Star, which is 100% complete, which is absolutely vital if you're going to be doing anything on LinkedIn. Taking a look at company profiles. In the last 2 weeks, there's been a major change in company profiles on LinkedIn. With the removal of products and services and the introduction of showcase pages. Then I'm going to look at how you build an effective database, which really, for me, is one of the key parts of LinkedIn. And finally, how you actually leverage the connections that you have. So, there are now 300 million users worldwide on LinkedIn. Roughly 11 million in the UK. For me, it's really the Facebook of the business world. So everything that Facebook is doing in terms of the consumer-facing environment, LinkedIn is doing something equivalent there as well. It's pretty much a LinkedIn profile is as important as having a business email address or a business telephone number. Virtually all the professionals that I interface with in my day-to-day work are all on LinkedIn, and it's very much a visibility tool. They are changing it significantly. Clearly, it did actually 11 years ago start out as simply a website where you posted on your CV as a way to get a new job, but it's changed beyond all measure. It's now a very slick, effective customer relationship management, business intelligence, and networking tool, aside from other things as well. But of course, it is actually also a powerful lead generation channel as well. So that's just a little bit about the background, and certainly in the LinkedIn course, we look far more at exactly where the sites come from, what it means, and how it's accessed. Clearly, with any social network, and LinkedIn is no exception, the mobile app version of LinkedIn is also a force to be reckoned with, and obviously enables very much mobile networking. So one of the things always to bear in mind is your networking social, local, and mobile, SoloMo. As with every single one of the social media courses that we run here at Business Training Made Simple, and in fact within the book, The Business of Being Social, all social media activity must be about delivering on your business objectives. Now, in terms of lead generation, then that becomes a defined business objective. Therefore, if you're going to be using LinkedIn, it's how you're going to use it. Now, unfortunately, still most brands and most people jump straight into the engage part of the diagram. They don't really know why they're on LinkedIn, what they've got to say, who they're engaging with, or what's really going on at all. They just say, oh, well, I thought it was a good idea to go on to LinkedIn. So the important thing is actually to look at the planning stage. Why are you going to use this channel? Well, if you're going to be using it for lead generation, then you need to plan around that. Listen to what's being said about you, your competitors, what conversations are taking place, what groups people are in. Maybe look at some thought leadership articles, maybe look at some blogs, and look at some sponsored company updates, etc. Once you synthesize all that information, then you should be in a position whereby you feel that you are ready to engage. But as I say, this 5-step procedure, which is number 1, get your business objectives in place. Number 2, plan around that. Number 3, listen. Number 4, analyze. And number 5, engage. And of course, continue to go back to your business and revisit your business objectives on a regular basis. So something really worth bearing in mind, not just on LinkedIn, but in fact any social network. So if you're going to be using LinkedIn as a lead generation tool, it's very important that your own personal profile is in a fit state for you to be able to use it effectively. So there are a number of different variables which are required in order to get to All-Star. Industry and location is fairly self-explanatory. Up-to-date current position with a description. So your current job, you'll have your job title, hopefully a click through to the company page of your organization. It's worth saying at this point that there should be some form of company boilerplate, and that's a paragraph which effectively everyone within the company can use, so that their current position says the same thing about the company. They don't all say something different. So that's important. Your summary, of course, is very, very important, and it's very much overlooked. The summary is the 2,000 characters on your LinkedIn profile where you have an opportunity to shout from the rooftops about your entire career, not what you're doing now, but what you've done over your entire career. And it's a précis of who you are. It's like a mission statement. So up-to-date current position, and also a summary, and if you can, 2 past positions. Now, if you've been in the same job, in the same company, maybe that you can just say that you've had different positions within that company. And if you are just starting out in your career and you don't really have past positions at all, then obviously you can put your work experience in as positions there. Education, and realistically only put in what you think someone would be interested in, so you don't actually have to say that you got a special prize for knitwear in year 6. I mean, it's not really very interesting for anyone looking at your profile. Always think about, as with any form of marketing, think about your target audience. What do they want to see, and what would they be interested in? Then your skills. Minimum of 3. You can actually add up to 50 skills. The skills are what you decide about yourself, or in fact, other people who are connected to you can decide, in fact, that you have different skills, and you can decide to add them to your profile or not. These skills then inform how you get endorsed. So often that people saying, oh, I keep being endorsed for all these skills I don't have, or say, well, don't add them to your profile then. And if they're being endorsed by people you don't know, then you shouldn't really be connected to them. It's about having a proper defined network of contacts on LinkedIn, not a lot of random strangers. So the skills in themselves, it's a useful snapshot. So for example, if you search on Google David Taylor social media, you'll see my LinkedIn profile, and on there you'll see all my endorsements, and effectively they become the building blocks, my keywords, which form the DNA of what I do as a trainer and as a specialist in the area. Profile photo, really important, totally overlooked. The amount of organizations who just have really dreadful photos, or in fact people use entirely inappropriate photos. I was actually at a training course recently where someone's LinkedIn profile was the shot of them on night out on New Year's Eve. Probably not a good idea. Probably not the best way to show yourself as a professional. So the profile photo, realistically should be the photo that you'd have on your company website. But it is important to have that profile photo, not least because if you're using the app version of LinkedIn and you're going to have a meeting and someone wants to meet with you and they're connected to you, up will come your photo, making it a lot easier. And of course, the final thing is to add at least 50 connections. I would say that at its simplest level, LinkedIn is a room. And in the room is everyone you've ever met in your professional life who you know, you like, and you trust. If you don't know them, you don't like them, and you don't trust them, then they shouldn't be in the room. So all of us, virtually all of us in professional life will have at least 50 connections. These are 50 people who you would like to have in your proverbial room. And there are several ways of connecting, and we go through that in the LinkedIn course. So get those right, and what you've got is the foundation for a reasonably good LinkedIn profile and an ability actually to start to network on the site. So that's at a personal level. At a corporate level, there's recently been some changes to the way that companies can represent themselves on the LinkedIn channel. So historically, you had a company page, and that company page would have a number of tabs, and the tabs would be products and services, and you could list up to 15 different products and services, which you could be recommended for, and could actually potentially link through to landing pages on your own website. Now, LinkedIn are, like the other social networks, are very much trying to monetize their offering, and they're trying to find new ways in which they can get more money. And one of the ways was recently the introduction of sponsored updates, sponsored company updates. So as a company, if you have content and you want to deliver that content into the news feeds of very specific people in very specific organizations using targeting, then Facebook gave you that opportunity through pay-per-click. Again, so it was a fantastic way of reaching out to brand new audiences on LinkedIn. Now, they phased out the products and services tabs, and what they've done in their place is they have introduced showcase pages. Showcase pages are a little bit like microsites. And they are controlled off your main company page, and as you'll see if you look at LinkedIn's own company page, you'll then see underneath it are the showcase pages. Showcase pages, you can put all sorts of content, you can promote the content, share it, use it as a platform, and really reach out to the people who might be interested in that specific area of your business. So LinkedIn is just really following the path of websites. So you would have a company website, but very often companies would then have microsites or very specific landing pages for individual products and services that they offer. So one of the things that certainly we talk about in the LinkedIn course here is that we really look closely at how your brand wants to be represented online. Interestingly enough, Facebook really they are looking to try and take on the internet itself, certainly customer facing. And Facebook would almost argue that customer facing brands don't need to have a website because you've got upwards of 24 million people every day in the UK alone accessing Facebook, and therefore as a brand They're saying, well, use our environment and you can reach all the people you want to. So that's very much in the customer-facing world, but in the B2B and business professional services world, LinkedIn is really starting to do the same. And the company page and showcase pages are a very, very useful way in which you can build your brand and build your brand effectively. So one of the things that you really should try and think about is looking at your company presence, making sure that you have at least a company page, see how good that company page is, make sure that everyone is linked to it so you get some form of brand alignment across your company. And if you're thinking about this whole idea about content creation, which we go on a lot about at Business Training Made Simple, is then really try and think about what sort of content you have and where that content would go. Would you put it on your company page? Do you have specific content for showcase pages? And of course, how are you going to promote each of those pages? And as with any form of social media, it's important that you have some form of promotional strategy to let people know that you're actually on the social networks. So we've covered the personal profile. We've covered company profiles and pretty much looking at things like the showcase pages. Now I want to really start getting to the nitty-gritty of how you actually build an effective database on LinkedIn. Now, if you're going to be using lead generation and you're going to use it for lead generation, then you've got to really think about this idea about your primary network, secondary network, and how you can use the different layers of people to try and get through to the people you want to speak to. So the first stage is to think about your primary network. In that primary network, it's your room. So let's go back to this whole idea about having a room. So in the room is all the people that you know, like, or trust, which is great. So first off, if there are people in the room that you don't like, you don't know, or you don't trust, really you shouldn't be in. They shouldn't be in the room, or you realistically shouldn't be connected to them. So first things first, try and get that primary network as good as you possibly can. That's not to say that there may not be people who you would like in the room, and that is always what you need to do, is then think about how you're going to try and reach out to new contacts when you're doing networking and doing various forms of offline and online networking. This is how you're going to build your network. So look at your primary network. If you have those people in your proverbial room and you had the opportunity to speak to each of them individually, you had the opportunity to be visible to them, to communicate them what you're doing, then the chances are that you are going to make get some new business referrals, if you like. And that is the principle of old-fashioned face-to-face networking. So many of you will have gone to face-to-face networks and business events. So you might have gone to a breakfast meeting and you'll go into a room and there'll be loads of people, and very much the mistake people make is they go into the room, they look at the people there, think these people are not going to give me any direct business, therefore I'm not really going to be worth it. However, it's about word of mouth, it's about referrals, and it's about indirect new business wins. So looking at your primary network is going to be the place where you, as a professional services firm, are most likely to get your referrals from. So People in your first degree, and that on LinkedIn has a 1 by it, they will be your advocates. They will be your referrers. They will be your introducers. And you look after them, and what they will do is they will give you the opportunity to refer them into their client base. So going back to the room, it's obviously a great idea to look after all the people in your primary network. Stay visible to them, and how you stay visible to them is actually being proactive on LinkedIn. It's posting on your profile, it's posting on the company profile, it's joining groups, it's reaching out to people, making comments on other people's walls, etc. And by doing that, you're going to stay visible. The more visible you are, the more credible and high profile you become, and therefore the more likely it is that people are going to say, oh yes, I remember David. Yes, I've seen you, and actually I have a client who I think might be able to use very much use your products and services. So get your primary network correct, and what it will do is they will introduce you into their primary network, i.e. your second degree. And on LinkedIn you see a 1, a 2, a 3, a group, and out of your network on all connections. If you have a primary network of, say, 200 people, then if, for example, each of those 200 people also had 200 contacts, then obviously that gives you access to something like 40,000 professionals. If, like me, I'm up to 1,600 odd connections, then you're into the realms of 900,000 professionals who you could access through LinkedIn. And then, of course, if you actually start going up to the third tier, then what you're looking at is in the millions. So this really, this sort of target diagram is a very simple way of saying that you could actually reach out to thousands, hundreds of thousands of people very, very simply by looking at your primary database and thinking of how they could actually introduce you. On the LinkedIn course, we look at a lot of different ways that you can access the targeting within LinkedIn, paid for as well as the free. Obviously, with paid for, you get far more features than you get in the free version, and also you can look at how you can start drilling down within company profiles to see how many people you're connected to, who you would like to be connected to, and then figure out a sales strategy. Now, within the LinkedIn course, we have a 7-step process to lead generation on LinkedIn, and we go through all the steps of how we go through reaching out to people and actually getting new leads via LinkedIn. But really, at its simplest level, and LinkedIn is a wonderful social network for people who hate social media. It's simply a way of codifying the existing connections that you have. Traditionally, you may have had a Rolodex or a card index file on your desk, and it has lots and lots of contacts and lots of connections on it. LinkedIn is like that, but it's pretty much it's like the whole thing has been sent in very much into the 21st century. Not only do you have all those connections, but also you now, generally speaking, can actually see who those people are connected to, and in fact who those connected people are as well. So you get access to this very, very large database. So that is really how you use the various degrees, and it is no different from in the real world. For professional services firms, I would argue that the bulk of new business actually comes from that second tier. So if you are a lawyer, it may well be that you get a lot of your referrals and new business from accountants, or estate agents. They will be in your primary network. They're unlikely ever to give you business personally, but what they do is that they pass you on a lot of business to their own clients. And that's really very, very simply how it works. So just to review some of what we've just been talking about, if you're going to go down the route of having a proper defined lead generation strategy using LinkedIn, first step is actually to think about creating a defined strategy. That strategy isn't just you, it's a strategy for the whole company. So for example, if you're in a company with 50 employees, how are you going to leverage all 50 employees? How are you going to make sure that they're aligned to the overall LinkedIn strategy? How can they benefit? How can they connect? And how can they interact to ensure that you're getting the most opportunities for lead generation? And most businesses now, it is important that they have some form of social media guidelines. Within the social media guidelines, that includes what people can and cannot do on their own LinkedIn profiles. It includes privacy settings. It would include whether people are allowed to post, whether people are going to be using the LinkedIn company page, controlling it, being an admin of it, etc. So that strategy is an overarching strategy, and that's something we very much focus on in all our training courses. It all does come down to a strategy. It's no point just shooting in the dark and saying, oh, we're on LinkedIn, we don't really know what we're doing. There's got to be a proper strategy, and it's got to be closely aligned. And the bigger the organization, I've trained some banks, and you find that there's upwards of 25,000 employees all on LinkedIn. And if you don't have a policy, if you don't have a strategy, you soon get into this whole anarchic scenario where everyone does whatever they feel like, and there's no brand alignment. And in fact, you run the risk of getting into some hot water about how you protect your brand. Secondly, make sure all your employees get Toolstar. Very simply, if you're not going to be using LinkedIn properly, if you don't want to fill out your profile properly, then there's really no point being online. I don't believe that there is any legislation which says you can force someone to be on LinkedIn, but again, it does come back down to your HR guidelines. You should be having a dialogue with employees and saying, look, as part of the employee handbook, if you are employed here, we would ask you that you do use the company boilerplate and you refrain from saying anything which may be injurious to the brand. Now, if that is in your contract, if that is in an employee handbook, then obviously infringing that could lead to some form of disciplinary action. But say what you want to do is, if you're going to be very successful in using LinkedIn, you want to make sure that all your employees are all-star, and of course all your employees understand why it is that your business is on LinkedIn, and in fact what objectives it's going to be meeting. Now, at this stage, I should say also that individual employees will have and may have their own strategy for being on LinkedIn. Some senior managers may want to be thought leaders. Some people might want to use it as a news resource. Some might want to use it as a way to network with other people in their profession. But if you're using it as lead generation, then clearly you need to define a strategy around that. So once obviously you've got your LinkedIn strategy, you've got everyone in line. Then it's about how you use it as in a corporate basis. So think about the company profile. Think about the showcase pages, how you could be using them, what content you could be getting to promote on them. Whether you even want to have an advertising budget to sponsor some updates and really reach out to key people in key organizations, because that in itself could be a very effective way at lead generation. Build an effective database, which is absolutely vital, and that has never changed. If you go back 300 years, well-connected people were always going to be the ones who got the business, and it's about being connected, but using that database. It's all very well having lots of people you know and you're connected to, but if you're not doing anything with them, you're not staying visible to them, if you're not keeping up to date with what those people are doing and their connections and their contacts, etc., then it's just a waste of time. So it's about building a database. There's a truism within networking is that networking is very much a long game. You network for the long term, so if you know people, they're not necessarily, if you meet someone at an event or a conference or a seminar and you speak to them for a short amount of time, they don't necessarily know, like, or trust you yet. You have to build that level of trust. Therefore, it is a long-term way. And you might have to do some helping out on the way. You might need to help them. You might need to give them something for free. You might need to, give them a blog, etc. So obviously, once you've got this database, what you then really need to do is think about how you're going to leverage that and actually have a proper LinkedIn lead generation strategy. So thinking about your target companies, thinking about the people in those target companies, thinking about what you're going to say, the content you're going to provide them with. You need to be thinking about your elevator pitch. What are you going to say which is going to make them want to talk to you? You might want to think about how you target, the approach you make. Do you make a direct approach? Do you make an indirect approach? Do you want to build in face-to-face networking, or do you want to be using groups very successfully? You may even want to create your own group and use that as a networking forum. One of the interesting things for me about all social networks is that there is a parallel in the real life with everything you do. Unsurprisingly, we're all humans, and the social networks merely mirror what they do. So again, all of the networking attributes that people know and are used to and have had for hundreds of years are all, in fact, all visible on something like LinkedIn. So get that strategy right. Get your think about these targets of who you want, how you're going to get them, what you're going to say to them, how you're going to follow it up, and how you're going to build all that and really measure it. And as with all forms of social networking, you can measure the effectiveness. You can measure the effectiveness of your company page. You can measure the effectiveness of how many people are coming to your website. You can measure the effectiveness of how many leads you're generating, how many leads you're converting, it may well be that LinkedIn, whilst it's great, it needs to be done with a very much a great deal of face-to-face networking. And the final thing I would say is that it is really, really important to be proactive. Networking, as I said, is a long game, but it's also about being really, really proactive. If you're just going to go on LinkedIn, you might fill out your profile, but you never write anything on your own profile. You never post. You don't blog. You don't engage. You don't join groups. You don't stay in touch with connections. You don't connect. Then really nothing's going to happen for you. And you may well say, well, LinkedIn has failed. It's not. It's that you have to be proactive, and it is a there's obviously an opportunity cost and a time cost involved with using LinkedIn, and in some cases it may well be that there are other better ways of lead generation. But for me, LinkedIn is just a very, very clever and effective way of using a CRM system and a contact base for a company and the individuals in that company to get through really to the people that they want to meet. And what you can do is obviously use the people you know to get through to the people that you want to know. So that is it for now. It's short and sweet today. As I say, the LinkedIn course, it's a full day course, which I take. And what we do is we go through in forensic detail into all aspects of LinkedIn. A lot of the time on the course will be spent within LinkedIn. There'll be lots of practical workshops. So what we try and do is delegates find out exactly maybe some of the companies that they really want to get into, start thinking about their sales and business development strategy. We can then do practical exercises, and in many cases, by the end of the day, by using LinkedIn, they've actually got a defined way of actually getting through to the companies they want to do business with. So this has been very much a very short précis and a bit of a taster. We go in far more detail, and obviously we do spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. So that's me for now. I'll just hand over to Jenny, who has a few little bits of business to talk about.
Great, so thank you, David. Just so you know, our next Google Hangout is about setting up your content strategy for business growth, and that will be next month as we hold our Hangouts the first Thursday of every month. Our next LinkedIn course is on the 28th of May. So if you are interested, I am the one who manages the courses, so please either call the office or contact me via email, which is jenniferh@madesimplegroup.com, and David will be running these courses as well. Just so you know also, we are now launching several new courses. We are now going to start running a half-day course on Pinterest and Instagram. That'll be run by our trainer, Laurie Edmonds. So it'll be a really interesting course to show the visual side to your business and products. And we are starting sales course as well, which is the single sales principle, which we are launching in June. So if you're also interested in that, please contact us and sign up. And as well, we are launching a search marketing bundle, which is our Google Analytics course, Google AdWords and SEO all together. It's a 3-day intensive course which allows you to learn about search marketing, and it covers all the areas that you need to know to increase your online visibility. And also, as well as our Google Hangouts, we have other ways to connect with us. So we have our Twitter account at GetTrainedUK, and also our hashtag, which you can send your questions to today, as we don't have our usual Google Hangout format. So if you have any questions about this session, please send your questions on Twitter. We have our Pinterest account, our Business Training Made Simple Instagram account. We also have Facebook. You can leave your questions on there, and also have a look at our LinkedIn page as well, and also our Google Plus, where we post all our hints and tips and information on there as well. Other services we have, obviously we have our training courses, and we have our in-house training days, where we come to you and tailor courses specifically to your company needs. We can spend several days at the office if you wish and cover all areas that you need to be covered. We also have, with our partners, Carvel Creative, we provide social media services and online visibility solutions, where we can manage your social media channels, produce content for your content marketing, website design, graphic design, and online advertisement as well. So we can help with Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn and PPC, and also help with creating a marketing strategy, planning, and consulting. As well as our Hangouts, we also have our blog, which is free hints and tips constantly. We have a blogging team, so we constantly post up interesting and helpful blogs for you to read over. And also, this webinar will be sent onto our YouTube channel. So if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can view all our past Hangouts, and also this one if you want to revisit the video again. Here is just a refresher of our courses. All our courses, you can gain CPD points. So you can either gain a master's in search media marketing or search engine marketing. As you can see there, you gain different points in each course. Great, so thank you for today, and we will see you again.